Boom, we're back in the game. Welcome back to the Archery Project, guys. I've got Jay from Endex Archery here, all the way from Virginia.
Yeah, good to be here.
Dude, appreciate you coming down. We're like we were talking about a little bit. We're kind of in a unique spot. We got Emerald Isle, Topsail. We're right on the beach. So we get a lot of guys that roll through here. And you hit me up the other day and you're like, I'm in town. I want to come by and check out the shop. And I was like, man, this is a perfect opportunity.
Yeah, I was chatting with my buddy Cody Griffin.
Oh, yes.
And he was
one
like,
and only.
Yeah, he's like, you're right down the road. Hit these guys up. And obviously, you know, we had talked in PA, so everying just kind of aligned.
Yeah, I know, because we've been talking for a little bit back and forth, right? And things are chaotic and busy and, you know, everything. And we finally got to meet. We met at PA because you guys weren't at Tennessee.
No, we did West Virginia and PA this year.
Yeah, and we're talking about the Total Archery Challenge. So you said just West Virginia and PA this year?
Yeah.
So how was it as far as, was this your guys' first time being there?
No, so we've been going for years, and Tennessee's used to be one of our favorite. We've been going for years as shooters, and in the last 2 years, we've had our Index booth set up.
Yeah, so how has that been for you guys?
It's been great. You know, our booth, we're not really selling anything. This year we did have some exclusive T-shirts for sale, but typically we just run raffles, and our whole goal is to kind of, you know, with the military theme, right, just make a little R&R outpost for people. They come off the mountain, their feet hurt, whatever. They want to drop some gear to go get food. They can use our booth for that. So we're set up. We've got cold drinks. We've got couches. They can come hang out, chill, you know, and kind of get out of the sun for a little while. So just, you know, that allows for a lot of relationship building. You hear a lot of cool stories. People start learning what we're all about, and then they're like, wow, you know, and they've got something to add to that. So it's been great.
Yeah, good, man. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. So Endex Archery, what is Endex?
Yeah, so I'll start with the name first. You know, Index is a military or law enforcement phrase for end of exercise. And for me, it's ending the exercise and futility that is a lot of our brothers and sisters approach to mental health. It's, you know, ending the exercise in drugs, alcohol, self-isolation, risky behavior, or, you know, God forbid, a pistol in the mouth. So it's all about providing a healthy coping mechanism through archery. It's about connecting them with a community, something that a lot of veterans and former first responders are missing whenever they leave the job. And it's about some physical wellness as well, getting them outside, out in the outdoors, and active again. So it's those three things. We primarily work with people with post-traumatic stress, and we target veterans and law enforcement the heaviest just because we're trying to curb the suicide rates in those communities. But anyone with post-traumatic stress, and as long as archery is going to be the right therapy for them, is welcome into our program.
Yeah, that's cool. So to really get into, I mean, what brought the idea on for you? I mean, so your background, you were prior Air Force and law enforcement.
Correct.
Are you still active law enforcement?
No, I left, I was FBI up until September, and I just recently left that job. And then, well, I guess I'm in the reserves with the Air Force still as a special agent. So I still have a foot in the door, but I don't know, being a reservist, it doesn't really count. Right. But I was active duty for 12 years.
Okay.
So kind of the genesis for this, it's actually a really cool story because I was stationed with my co-founder in Alaska from 2013 to 2016. So we both had very similar backgrounds in the military, but completely different paths as far as our own personal trauma. He was a child forensic interviewer for the Air Force. And then a lot of my stuff comes from a deployment in 2015, where I lost 6 of my teammates. But just on top of that, you know, those would be our big ones, I'd say. But then on top of that, just, you know, a career for me, it's been 18 years in military and law enforcement work. So just a career of being exposed to, you name it, right? Yeah, I guess that's our genesis. So I come back from that deployment in 2015, in a really bad spot, making all the wrong choices, right? I'm staying up late at night, every night drinking, because that's how I could go to sleep, right? And then I'm sleeping in till 2 the next day, and before my wife and kids come home from school, I'm grabbing clean dishes out of the closet and throwing some ketchup on them or something and throwing it in the sink to make it look like I've been up and productive all day. So, you know, a lot of survivor's guilt, depression, PTSD, all that stuff. 2019, I left the military, and I'm just a fade into the shadows kind of guy. I don't want to go away. I don't plan to have a retirement ceremony, any of that stuff. So I made that known, and Ray, my co-founder, him and another buddy that we were stationed with in Alaska, had found out that it was my last day on active duty. I'm leaving. So they came in from, I think one was in Texas, one was in Arkansas. So anyway, I come home from work that last day. I'm done. I walk in my kitchen, and these two clowns are in the kitchen cooking dinner. So they planned it with my wife to surprise me. So over that weekend, we're just sitting out on the front porch drinking bourbon one night, and Ray asked me how I'm doing with everything, and I told him, like archery's been really great for me. It's been very therapeutic, and it led to a lot of good. And he's like, dude, me too. So we start kind of talking about our stories and how we've been using archery to cope. And I guess that was the idea that birth Index. Shortly after that conversation, I went to the FBI Academy, graduate, get sent to Virginia, and I think I'm in Virginia for like a week. And I called him up and I was like, hey, dude, here's what we're going to do. We're going to start mentoring dudes. We're going to show them, what archery has given to us. And his response was, sweet. What do you need from me? He was in from the get go. Um, Started doing that. And about the third person that I convinced that archery was going to be therapeutic for them and walk them into a bow shop like this one and watched them pull out their debit card or their cash or whatever and drop, you know, around $2,000 on a setup, it made me feel like crap. And I said, if I'm going to be helping dudes and girls, and if this is what we're doing, then I need to find a way to pay for this. Um, so in 2023, we finally started the nonprofit officially. And since then, our goal has been to pay for 100% of the equipment that these heroes that come in our program need to get started in archery.
That's awesome, man. I mean, so it's with the archery side of things. How did you end up in archery though? Were you a bow hunter? Like, did you like, oh
Yeah.
man, I just wanted to get into bow hunting? You're like, oh, buddies are doing it. Like, how did you end up in the archery side of things versus literally anything else?
Right. Yeah. No, that's a great question because Ray and I were both firearms instructors in the military, so could have very easily gone that route. And I'm glad we didn't. And I'll talk about that in a second. But for me, growing up in South Louisiana, outdoors is a way of life. I don't think I knew a kid in elementary school that didn't hunt. Right. Um, I was also in scouting, all that stuff. So archery played a very early role, and I was always fascinated with archery. But I'd say the real start was in 2011. I PCS'd from New Mexico to Alabama and said, hey, we're back down south. I'm going to start whitetail hunting again. I want to get a new gun. So me and my wife and my small kids were at Bass Pro Shops. I'm looking at, I think it was a Remington 270, but it might have been a Winchester. Anyway, I'm looking at rifles, and I didn't have a dedicated hunting rifle. Um, Checking them out, the wife is like, hey, look, we've got a 2-year-old, we've got twins that are a couple months old, they're going to be crawling around soon. Not sure if another gun in the house is great until we get a safe. I'm like, all right, that's cool. So right next to the gun counter at Bass Pro is the archery counter. So I'm just browsing, looking at bows. I make a couple comments like, oh, that would be cool. My grandfather bow hunted. Uh, but we just kind of left it at that. We leave Bass Pro Shop, and the plan is for me to buy a safe and then buy a 270, 308, whatever, some kind of deer hunting rifle. Well, a couple weeks later, this was in November. A couple weeks later, I come home from work, and underneath the Christmas tree that's in the living room is clearly a bow-shaped package that's all wrapped up. So my wife had bought me a PSE Stinger as my first bow, one of their ready-to-hunt packages. I'm sure.
Oh boy,
so many people start out there, right?
We've gone through. I mean, the PSE Stingers, the Stinger Maxes, and then the Bear series. Like that's like your entry level bow that everyone kind of gravitates to.
That was it.
And they're great bows, dude. Getting into the game, the Stinger has been, dude. We've sold a bajillion of those things. It's a fantastic bow to get started with, and honestly, very reasonably priced.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, it's got everything you need. So started there. Started shooting. At the time, I was a firearms instructor in the military. So, my day job was wake up, teach a class, go out and qualify a bunch of airmen, and then I'd pull my bow out and we'd shoot on the range, me and a couple other guys, but really got ingrained there. I upgraded to a Matthews Creed just before going to Alaska. I knew the hunting out there, I was just going to need something with a little bit more power, a little bit more speed. And I say the Creed is the bow that saved my life because that's, again, when I came back from that deployment, that's the bow that kind of snapped me out of that depressive state and got me going.
So we'll go back a little bit. You got this new bow. You open it up. Who set it up?
So that's the funny story is she talked to the guy at Bass Pro at the archery counter, and he put a peep in it. He did everything right. So it was a ready to hunt package, but and that's why I say not all bow shops are created equal, right? Because would you ever sell a bow to some dude's wife and tie a peep in? No, you'd be like, hey, I need that guy in here.
Yeah, there's a lot more to it than what's, and that's one of the things,
Yeah.
a big thing for us, right? The education side of things,
Right.
because archery can be overwhelming for a lot of people, especially because you just don't know what you don't know what you don't know.
Absolutely.
And, we get guys that come in, or wives. We see this a lot during the holidays. I want to buy my husband a bow. I'm like, well, that's a great idea, but do you have any idea? I mean, because we need to know draw length. Is he going to fit this thing?
Right.
We need him in here. So, maybe buy him a gift card,
Yeah.
come back and do it that way. Because we see a lot of guys, they'll pick up a bow and we've had guys come in that are right-handed that buy a left-handed bow, didn't even realize that it was a left-handed bow.
Yeah.
So there's a big learning curve there. So that's one of our big things, is like the education side of things. So you can make a well-informed decision on getting into the archery side of things.
That's right. And they did a decent job, in the military, you've always got all this paperwork laying around. So she knew my exact height, 68 inches. So she tells the guy, and he's like, oh, well, he's probably around a 28-inch draw. And I was, the peep height, I think it was a little off. It made me anchor a little bit weird, but funny story there is I could pull a bow back in the store because, I demoed the exact bow she wound up buying me while we were there. Pull it back in the store just fine. She gets home, she wraps it. Christmas Day, I'm opening this thing up. I go out to a field to shoot, and I can't draw it back. Now it's December, it's cold, I got all this clothing on, and I'm panicking because, again, I'm brand new to archery, and I'm thinking she just spent all this money on this great present, and I can't even use it. And then I think it was the next day I jumped on like Google or whatever and was like, hey, what to do if a bow is too heavy? And I learned, it's just you back out the limb bolts.
Yep.
And that's really been a start for me, like that moment was the tinkering. I've got an addictive personality. And then, one of those side effects of PTSD is you tend to hyperfixate on things. And that's why, again, archery is great for me, because whether it's tuning a bow, tinkering with a bow, building arrows, I haven't built strings yet, but I've played around with it. And that's another rabbit hole that you can go down to get some benefit from archery other than just shooting.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot that goes into it. I mean, we noticed that. So you do all your own tuning and setup and everything now?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. We've noticed a lot of people, because a good bow shop is hard to come by,
Right.
Really depending on where you're at. And that's one of the things that we've noticed with these events that we go to, is there's a lot of guys that really gravitate towards YouTube or, articles or whatnot to get educated on how to do this stuff themselves, because they don't have access to a great shop. So we've noticed more and more and more, especially at PA this year, the more guys I talk to, the guys that are really into it, they're all doing their own work now.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a testament to the archery community, right? Because in a lot of industries, you've got gatekeepers and you've got guys who don't want to tell you the secrets. Whereas you look at the archery community, you got you guys on YouTube, you've got guys like John Dudley, Chris B, these guys who could monetize this stuff, but don't. They put it out there for free, and they have really in-depth videos on how to do just about anything.
Yeah.
It's pretty incredible.
It is. I think that's the great thing about the archery community as a whole. Like every time we go to an event that's out of state, completely away from where we're from, and we meet people, dude, it's like the most welcoming community.
Absolutely.
It's weird because online it doesn't seem that way, right? You look at the social media
Right.
and stuff, you see some of the comments, you're like, man, this industry, maybe there's a little bit, I don't know. But then you go and you actually go to these events and you meet everybody, and everybody's super cool. Even like, your high profile guys within the industry, right? The kind of the leaders, the John Dudleys, the Chris B's, any of those guys, you go over and talk to them, very welcoming, very open to talk to you about anything and everything. We watched when we were in Seven Springs at Total Archery in Pennsylvania this year. I mean, John Dudley was sitting down having lunch with some guy.
Yeah.
It's just cool, man. It's a good community for sure.
Right. Yeah. Now the people that will take the time to make you better. And I heard something really cool. I think it was Josh Jones that was talking about it, but he was talking about the ASA circuit as well. And he was, his point was like, hey, if you're an average guy, just go to an ASA and shoot in the pro class. And the chances are you'll be shooting with one of these big names, the Levi's, the Dan McCarthy's, those guys. And he's like, the thing you'll find is they'll help you. They'll help you right there on the range, because their mentality is they want you to be your best so they can beat you at your best.
Right.
And it's like, man, that's cool.
It is, man. So one of our guys, one of my lead techs, his name's Cody. He just did one of the IBO shoots in West Virginia. And that's what he said. He's like, man, you end up just with that. You just get put with the top guys, and everyone there, obviously everyone there is to shoot and to win or place or whatnot,
Right.
but everyone is super willing to just,
Yeah,
aid you in whatever way they possibly can.
absolutely.
Yeah, it's a great dude. I love the archery community for that reason, man. We've just met so many incredible people. I mean,
Right.
and the amount of, like, for example, Index coming into the archery side of things, we see a lot of nonprofits, right? There's a lot of nonprofits that are out there that are doing good.
Hmm.
But I think the whole thing with Index is very cool because of how archery works. It's consistent. It's not a one and done.
Right. Yeah, I tell people if all they, if we hook a guy up with a bow and if all he ever does is shoot that bow, he's getting therapy and it's working. But when you start adding in, like I said, that community aspect, that's the gift we're giving them. Is people talk about how much fun Total Archery Challenge is, and whether you shoot the courses or not, whether you're just hanging out in a vendor village or whether you are a vendor, right? I think everyone walks away from that event so full, and it's the atmosphere and the community that make it that way, and that's part of the gift that we're giving to people. And that's why I say I'm very thankful it was this community and not the firearms community, just because it's different. That's um, there's a lot of fun to be had in the firearms community, but it's just not the same. It's not the same level of fun for me.
I'll agree
Yeah,
with you
it's
on
great.
that. Dude, don't get me wrong. I love guns. Like
Yep.
I like shooting like long range stuff. But the archery community, I'll agree with you, man. It's different. So starting this nonprofit,
Mhm.
right? What were some of the biggest challenges to getting this thing up off the ground for you guys? Because it's not just you; you got a partner involved in this.
Right. Um, yeah, it was. I say the whole process of getting off the ground was a bit of a challenge, just because I've got no background in this. Right, like I consider myself a pretty smart guy. I'm a trained investigator and all that stuff. I know how to figure things out, but there was a lot of figuring out to do. And I'll give a shout out, speaking of TAC, to Warrior Rising, who's always at TAC, right?
Dude, so Tommy,
Yeah, Tommy and Dara.
awesome.
So the first TAC event Ray and I went to, we were just shooters. It's in Tennessee, and we come across Tommy and this Warrior Rising thing, and they're helping entrepreneurs. And I'm like, hey, we're trying to start a nonprofit. And I'm talking with him and Dara, and he's like, hey, well, that's not what we do. We don't have a program for nonprofits, but reach out to us, and we'll see what kind of resources we can get you. And they sent me towards a Facebook page that was just full of veterans starting nonprofits. And, that was the start for us because one, it gave me the confidence to say, okay, I can do this. I don't need to hire a lawyer and all this stuff. I can do this on my own and save some money. But one of the biggest things, there was some advice that I got from the Facebook page, and it was, if you're starting a nonprofit, first you have to start it in your state that it's going to be incorporated in. And then everything goes to the federal level at the IRS. And the IRS is looking for very specific verbiage in your articles of incorporation that the state may give you a checkbox. But once it gets over to the IRS, if that's lacking, then they're going to deny it. Then you've got to start the process all over again. So just something as simple as that, not having to deal with that hurdle that a lot of people have gone through was huge. And again, that came from within the archery community to say, hey, start this. Yeah, so I've been able to lean on a lot of resources, but I guess that was the challenges, right? Is writing the articles of incorporation, learning state law, and I'm still learning things right now. When we applied for our tax exempt status, we'd already been a nonprofit for 2 years, and I find out there's this other paperwork that is in the state of Virginia. It's the Department of Agriculture that runs this, but it's your right to solicit donations. I didn't even know this existed. So now I'm freaking out. I'm like, oh, I'm going to be in huge trouble.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so I write to the state and I'm like, hey, I've got to fill out this form and we've been receiving donations. And then, the lady from the state, she's like, it's fine. She's like, you're applying for your tax exempt, right? I'm like, yes, ma'am. She's like, that's when everyone learns about us for the first time. And we've had nonprofits that have been operating for 10 years before they finally find out we exist and you're supposed to, have approval to solicit donations. So it's just little things like that. There's a lot of nuance to it and there's a lot of laws and it depends on, again, the state that you're incorporated in and what you're trying to do. Um, but yeah, it was building that part has been the challenge. I say everything else, has been fairly easy. We're still small, we're growing, but the community has been so welcoming. Um, and with us being a lot of our heroes' first step in archery, right? We're looking for the people who've never even picked up a bow. Um, there's competition in the nonprofit world, but there's not a lot of competition for us. And it's, excuse me, it's our willingness to work with other nonprofits because if I'm a guy's day one, well, then I turn around and I look at, my good buddy Tony Cowden runs the Reason Outdoors, another nonprofit They take veterans and first responders on hunts. Well, that's not my thing, but I can take a guy, train him up, and a year from now when he's ready to start hunting, I pass him off to the Reason Outdoors or Operation Pay It Forward. Or maybe archery's not working for him, so then I send him to Project Healing Waters, and now he's learning fly fishing, and that's the therapy he needs. So for us, it's been a huge partnership between nonprofits and also companies. Um, one of the things that we love to do is bring rival companies. Like two of our sponsors are Gas Bowstrings and America's Best Bowstrings. Fierce rivals, fierce competitors in the archery industry, but they come and sit at the same table in their mutual support for veterans and first responders. Same thing with Excel sites and HHA sites. They're going to be hosting the prayer breakfast this year at ATA together, and coming to the table in support of us and for veterans. So I think it's really cool to be able to bring those partnerships together too.
Yeah, that's interesting, man. That's awesome that these companies are willing to kind of put things aside and do that for the greater good. I think it's important. So with this, you've started this thing's up off the ground. You're based out of Virginia.
Yep.
Where else is, because you guys have like, are they like, I don't even know what to call them. Like you have guys outside
Yeah.
affiliates that are, representing you guys outside of just Virginia, correct?
Yeah. So we have ambassadors in 7 states.
Okay.
And I consider my co-founder, because he's still active duty. So he's in just outside Dayton, Ohio. We've got some guys right down here, some guys out of Camp Lejeune
So
now.
I know Ryan Potts is here.
Yep. Ryan, we're bringing on one of his buddies, Jason. He just got brought on, and there's a growing community here with what Ryan wants to do. And you should have him on sometime once that gets started too, because he's going to be partnering with Intrepid Spirit and Center Shot Blue to get something going in this area. We've got guys in Utah, Texas, Colorado, Wisconsin, and I'm probably leaving somebody out. But we're growing this network of ambassadors with the point being they grow the mission of Index in their local community.
So are you guys typically based around bases?
It happens a lot that way. Right now,
Makes
most of our ambassadors are people we know through our military and law enforcement network. So a lot of military base affiliation.
Yeah, that's awesome. So as far as, when did you notice that this thing was really starting to work? Like you're like, oh, we're making an impact now. Like you can actually see the return, or, you've worked with somebody and you're like, wow, this really changed their life. Is there a particular moment where you're like, this is going to be a thing? This is going to be big.
Yeah, that was always a question, because obviously I consider myself patient zero. It had a huge impact on me and it worked for me, so I knew it could work. But would it work for everyone or anyone else other than me? But it was immediate. The first person that I worked with, hooked them up with a bow. 2 months later, I'm getting text messages, and it's just like, I can't thank you enough type of thing. In those conversations. And I say, we are selective in the heroes that we choose. We have to make sure that, again, the archery lifestyle is going to fit with them, because I can't give somebody a bow and then it just sit in their living room for the next 5 years. It's not doing anything. But yeah, I say every rep that we get, every hero that we work with, we get that instant feedback. You see it when people come in here and they shoot a bow for the first time, right? You see how their face lights up and how excited they get. It's tenfold whenever someone's been battling something, looking for a way out, and they find that instantly in that first shot.
Yeah, we've noticed. So obviously we're right outside of Camp Lejeune.
Mm-hmm.
So biggest Marine Corps base on the East Coast. So we get a lot. That's majority of our in-store traffic, right? I would say it's like 95% active duty guys, retired guys, prior guys that come through our door.
Right.
And one of the things when we first started this, we worked with Wounded Warrior Battalion a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And actually majority of my staff is either active duty or retired guys. And that's how I was introduced to someone, was through Wounded Warrior Battalion. And one of the guys being, his name was Josh Zitzman. Awesome dude. But he got into the archery side of things through Wounded Warrior Battalion.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it consumed him. And then he came over, we met, he started working for us, and, archery was a massive part of his life for a long time until he kind of moved away and he started something else. But we've noticed the same thing, man. Archery just has, it's people just, once they kind of gravitate towards it, it really, I mean, just opens their eyes and, really changes things for them. I don't know exactly what it is. But I mean, we see it every day, it seems like.
Yeah. No, archery's powerful, and it's that mind body connection that's required for archery. And for me, it was, I like to call it trauma goggles. Like when people go through something, you put on a mask, but that mask has these goggles, and while you're walking around daily life or whatever, it's that whatever happened. For me, it was December 21st, 2015. Is just that I'm seeing through that lens. It's everywhere. I can't take them off. Um, and that first time after that, when I went and shot that Matthews Creed, I was still wearing the goggles for that first arrow, and I missed my target completely. And I prided myself on being a pretty good shot. And it was just like something in my head clicked. Those goggles came off, and for the next 2 hours, I was just locked in shooting a bow, you know, putting together good groups. And it's through that process, because in order to shoot a bow effectively, you got to be dialed in and solely focused on that bow. If you're thinking about something else, it's not going to work out. And that's one of the many reasons why it's effective.
So, I mean, there's all kinds of therapy dudes can go
Mhm.
through, or girls can go through. I mean, there's, you name it. I mean, somebody's out there selling something, giving something away. But what makes this different than standard, like just go sit down and talk?
Well, there's a lot of different kind of catchy phrases out there, but one that I like the most is that men heal shoulder to shoulder. And when you take someone and you start instructing them in archery, um, you're doing that activity. It's you're kind of setting it up. Hey, this is an adventure. And there's all these possibilities, and it is that shoulder to shoulder aspect for men. Women, on the other hand, it says that they heal face to face. And I think what my wife is building with Index Rosies is more of the community aspect, and it is some of that face to face. But sure, yeah, talk therapy works for some people. Didn't work for me. When I started seeing a therapist, actually seeing a therapist, the first one, it was through the military, right? And it was talk therapy, and I got nothing out of it. Um, and I do gravitate to those alternative modalities for healing. And that's actually our long term goal, is to build a wellness center in Central Virginia. We're going to call it the Endex Archery Proving Grounds. And it's going to be a 5-day retreat for our heroes. It's archery centric, right? So they come in day one, you build a bow, you start teaching them how to shoot, but they may have 2 hours in them before they need a break, right? So then you roll into another alternative treatment method. Maybe it's ice baths and sauna treatment. Maybe it's yoga. Maybe it's meditation. Um, a form of art therapy, where we build an arrow and we have them destroy that arrow. Maybe you shoot a steel buck at 50 yards with an arrow that you just built and channeled some of that negative thinking into, and you watch that thing explode. Um, so at the end of this 5-day experience, they walk away with a bow and an understanding of how to use it, but then maybe 2 or 3 other tools in their tool belt to be able to turn to, instead of, again, the alcohol, the drugs, or whatever they were using before to cope.
Yeah, that makes sense. It seems like there's a lot of programs that it's like you go out, you do this one thing, and that's kind of the end of it.
Right.
And then you're back to square one. That's where it seems like there's some difference when it comes to Index. It's not just you go, you do this thing, you hang out with these guys for
Hmm.
2 to 4 days, and then you go back and you're alone. It's that network that this kind of really creates. And then once you get into the archery side of things, hitting back on it, it's constant. It's constantly growing, constantly
Right.
learning, constantly tinkering.
Right. And thankfully, I've lived a life or had a career that's exposed me to a lot. So, like you mentioned, Wounded Warrior Battalion, every branch of the military, and I just want to let the listeners know, there's a lot of people familiar with Wounded Warrior Project, which is a nonprofit that does good for veterans. But the Wounded Warrior Battalion or Wounded Warrior Program in each branch of the military, um, whenever you are exiting the military and you have some disabilities, whether that's mental health related, physically disabled, whatever, or whenever you're injured, you go through recovery. um, People can go to the Wounded Warrior Battalion. They're assigned there as their day job, and it's filled with, again, all those different wellness modalities. So archery being one of them. I know in Alaska they put on a workshop for fly tying, which was very therapeutic for people, and they would make these amazing dry flies that were colored and looked like different metals. There was a bronze star, a purple heart, all this stuff. So through Wounded Warrior Battalion, people are finding activities that are also therapeutic. And then when I was in the FBI, if you are involved in a shooting or some type of mass casualty or something like that, they send you to their version of it called the Post Critical Incident Seminar. And for me, that's where the idea of the proving grounds really started. Was my PCIS trip, again, 5 day trip, and you're just exposed to so many things. Um, Group therapy sessions, but then all these other. I did Tai Chi while I was there because there's some that you're going to be interested in, right? You pick those classes, but then the way the FBI does it is your last 2 days there are kind of open blocks for 4 hours, and they're like, hey, here's a list of things, and we encourage you pick one or two that you'll like, but pick some that you think you'll hate, just so you can at least experience it. Otherwise, you wouldn't, right? And one of them for me was art therapy, and I'm like, all right, well, I don't know. I'm not an artist, but I'll go sit through this just to experience it. And it wound up, it was incredible. You sit down, you've got paints, colors, markers, whatever, and you just start doodling on a page. You've got a therapist there kind of walking you through it, but whatever comes to mind. So I wound up just making this blob of different colors and I'm shading them all together, and it kind of looks like oil on water type of thing. Um, and at the end of like a 45-minute session, she's like, all right, you guys satisfied with your drawings? Does it look pretty? Did you get on paper what you wanted? I'm like, yeah, I'm actually kind of proud of this thing. She's like, cool, now crumble it up. And we went through this exercise of crumbling this thing, open it back up, whatever. And then at the end, you just kind of shred it into a million pieces and you throw it in the trash can. And like, I felt a genuine relief when I walked away from that session. And I was like, holy crap, that worked. Well, then I get home and I turn that into, well, Adam's Precision Archery has all these fancy wraps, or, pick a company, right? Maybe I can build an arrow with all these wraps that kind of, maybe the wrap speaks to me and what I'm feeling or what I experienced. I can fletch it up, I can build that arrow, channel some of that negative energy into it, and then go shoot into a steel target, like I said. Or, if you have a safe space, if you got 1,000 acres of farmland, like I do have access to sometimes, just launch that thing and forget about it. And there is a relief to that release, if that makes sense.
It does. So, do you notice a lot of the guys or girls that come to this? I mean, what's obviously there's trauma, we know that,
Mhm.
but what's the missing piece? Is it purpose? Is it lack of coping skills? Like, why? Like, what do you see that is the common, like, kind of like issue that after they've gone through
Yeah.
this, what are they missing?
I think part of it is trauma validation, right? Um, Whether you were in the service or you've never served and you're someone who's dealt with trauma, people don't want to talk about it. And people don't feel like whatever they went through is valid, because I'll use myself as an example. Like I said, my big one is I lost 6 of my teammates, but I know dudes who lost 30 of their teammates. So who am I to talk when, that guy's got it worse? Um, you take a girl who survived domestic violence. Um, she's like, yeah, I survived domestic violence, but I never went to war. What we do is we try to break that stigma down. And it's one, the military does not have a copyright on PTSD, but that's where most people's minds go when you say something trauma related. You say PTSD, they instantly think military. Um, and it is true, right? Military members and first responders, they experience trauma about 4,000 times in their career, but the average person will experience trauma at least 4 times in their lifetime. So trauma is everywhere. And it's giving those people a voice, giving those people that understanding, um, and using our stories and the stories of the heroes that came before them to say, like, hey, your trauma is valid, it is normal, and there's a way out of it as well, and it's not what you may think it is.
That makes sense. So, with that, nonprofits, one of the things that seems to be pretty normal now is how everything is kind of glamorized, right?
Hmm.
There's money to be made in these nonprofits.
Yeah,
We
absolutely.
see it. We see it a lot, where these nonprofits will stand up and they know there's opportunity in it, and that's one of the things that we've kind of had to navigate, and I think
Hmm.
a lot of companies have to navigate, right? What's the right nonprofit to work with? How do
Right.
you validate them? How, what's their actual end goal? Have you seen that in your space? You're like, wow, that, I mean,
Yeah. Not all nonprofits are created equal. And we just know that, right? I'm not going to
yep,
mention any names.
right.
Um, but there are some who are definitely more mission driven. I will say that there is a business side to a nonprofit too, though, because if you want to be competent and have an effective nonprofit, it usually takes a CEO. that CEO mindset to run this. Um, so some of them, let's say I'll talk about Folds of Honor because they're everywhere right now. They're doing a very good job. I think their mission is killer, right? If you don't know, Folds of Honor provides scholarships for Gold Star and Gold Shield families, meaning the wives and kids or husbands and kids of, um, fallen service members and first responders. They pay for their schooling. They're doing a lot of good stuff. That nonprofit, I think last year, maybe the year before, based on their numbers, they brought in about $5 million. The president and CEO of that nonprofit, he makes a CEO's salary, right? He's doing pretty good for himself. But it's because he, knowing the business world, is able to effectively use that $5 million and maximize that money to do as much good as possible. Whereas you take some guy off the street, you hand him a $5 million budget and you say, go. Well, we see what has happened with that with some nonprofits. And it leads to, okay, some of the money's going to the mission, but, well, I think I need a new house and I think I need a new car and all this stuff. So a lot of people look at organizations like, you can take Folds of Honor and say, man, this guy's salary is pretty crazy. Well, it's in line with what a CEO of a $5 million company should be making, and he's doing a really good job with that money. He's doing a lot of good. So yeah, I think when it comes to people like you, right? I learned very early on as a nonprofit, I thought I had this really cool original idea. We needed merch for our nonprofit, so I hit up this company and I'm like, hey man, you make hats. I can't afford these hats, but I'm a nonprofit, so I can give you this piece of paper and you can write off all the expenses. And this guy messaged me back, and I thank him for this because his first response, I thought he was kind of being a dick, but he wasn't. He was just dropping some knowledge. And basically, the theme of the conversation was like, yeah, dude, you and everybody else. He's like, I get hit up by probably 1,000 nonprofits a week wanting something for free. And again, that was like 2 weeks into us
It's a
being a
gut check,
nonprofit.
man.
Yeah.
You're
And I'm
like,
like, oh,
and that's the thing for us. We like, and that's where like building the relationship with a nonprofit, I think is so important, right? Because that's the thing. We're a small business.
right.
I don't have unlimited. If I could give out money and stuff, of course, right? We would do a lot more, but we have to be selective with the ones that we work with, and building that relationship and a partnership that's mutually beneficial for both parties is important, especially for the small businesses.
Right.
So many come to you and you're like, just write it off. I'm like, bro, just write it off.
Just write it off.
Just
right.
write it off, man. That's a sleep. We joke about it all the time here. Like, you run a business, just buy it and write it off. No big deal.
Right. and I've learned a lot too about, bow shops, because it's, again, just write it off mentality. A lot of people in the archery industry, when they look at the price of some of this equipment, they think that you guys are just making all this money, right? If people truly knew the profit margins on a bow,
right,
you make nothing on a bow. Especially, if the bow doesn't sell this year, there's a new one coming out next year, and now you got to mark that one down $100, $200, and it's like, well, there goes all your profit.
Yeah, there's so much risk in this. I mean, you have to be able to forecast and, ahead of time when it comes to buying. Yeah, and we assume all that risk every time, and it's like every year, like, man, hopefully archery continues to move forward.
Yeah. So those are all really good lessons to learn, and ultimately change my perspective on how we want to operate as a nonprofit. There are times where I will reach out to a shop, like for you. I reached out, hey, if we have a hero come through, can you offer that guy a year of free range time? And I don't even know what you guys spend, but like most shops, they charge people, hey, it's $5 an hour or $25 a week or whatever their program is. Hey, we got a new hero coming in. I've got an ambassador that's going to come and work with him. And I do that because now I'm not asking you for 3 hours of your time, which in this industry time is money, right? So I'm going to send an ambassador in there. Can you use your range? Usually that's an easy one for shops to say, sure. If a shop's doing really good, or maybe their rep had thrown them some stuff, it's like, hey, we see what you're doing. We'll throw in a target. We'll throw in 6 arrows, whatever. But it's never expected. But what we look for in a bow shop partner is that shop who, when a guy comes through the door, there's an employee there to be like, hey, do you need help? What can I do for you? Versus some of the shops that I've even been into, even in my local area, you walk into the shop, they look at you, and they go back to whatever they were doing, the conversation they were having with their buddy, and you can wander around the shop for 3 hours and no one will ever say a thing to you. Again, if I have a hero and I link them with an ambassador, I'm like, hey, your closest shop is Extreme Outfitters. There's going to be a lot of I guess, nervousness going on because archery's so foreign to these people. You know, I'm not looking for a veteran who's been shooting his whole life and just hooking him up with a new bow. No, I'm looking for the guy who's never even picked up a bow. He has no idea what to do when he comes in here. So we identify the good shops across the country and we partner with them because we know that when our heroes go in there, they're going to be taken care of. The other aspect for us is we're not really asking for handouts anymore. Yeah, if we're doing some raffles or we have an event coming up, we may hit up a few of our partners. But my goal now is for us to do the work and to show the work and let the companies who believe in our mission come to us. I just think it's better that way because, again, like you said, you get hit up by nonprofits all the
There's
time.
always a new one.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I was talking to a bear rep at Total Archery Challenge, and he said he got a letter and some guy was getting married. And they wrote to Bear thinking that, like, hey, we're getting married, so you should give us a free bow. And it'll be in all the wedding photos. And Bear's like, are you kidding me? You're getting married, so you get a free bow? But, it's just like, it's a good example of they get some wild requests. And then there's, just another nonprofit like Endex, and they're like, okay, well, here's another one of the thousands who've hit us up and want free stuff.
Got to weed through them.
Yeah, so our goal is just to do the work, and I think eventually people will see what we're doing and want to help out.
It's like anything. It's like a business. I mean, it's the same concept. It just takes time. It takes time to build, to develop, and the people to see what you're doing. And there's a lot of great ways to do that and get that exposure, right? Obviously, podcasts, working with brands, and then doing the work on your end. I mean, social makes it so great to be able to reach out to people now, and really network and connect. I think that's one of the best things for us with social, at least, is just to being able to connect with so many, not only customers, but businesses.
And it's social's free marketing. You got to get good at it and you got to be consistent
with
it.
If it's free if you do it yourself.
Yeah. And that's something that I'm learning. I manage our Instagram page. It's hard. It's a grind.
It's a lot.
But it's also done a lot for us.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So we're looking at this. How does someone, what's the qualifications to come into Endex and get taken care of and go through the whole process? What does it look like beginning again? Is there an application process? Do they just reach out to you? Do you seek them out? How does it work?
Yeah. So we have worked with some people who've reached out through the website, whether it was them directly or someone referring them through our website. But I would say 90% of what we do is, and that's why we have the ambassadors, right? We like to get out into the community. Again, using myself as an example, every Friday in Lynchburg, Virginia, we have this staircase called Monument Terrace, and it's 4 flights of stairs, and each flight is dedicated to a different conflict. So it's a memorial, if you will. Every Friday, anywhere between 50 and 200 veterans gather there at noon. And they've done it for 2,140-something weeks now. They never miss a Friday. I'm there every Friday. Now, it just happens to be next door to the company I work at now, CloudFit Software. But they support me. I mean, the CEO of that company rearranged major company meetings so that the veterans in our company can go to this event. But I'm there every Friday. I'm talking to people. I'm active with the American Legion. I'm active with my local Knights of Columbus. It's about being integrated in the community and finding the people who need the help. To me, that's the best way. Ryan, the guy here, Ryan Potts, he's got a great idea. Not only does he have a connection to Camp Lejeune from his time in the Marine Corps, but partnering with someone like Intrepid Spirit, right? You've got sailors and Marines going down there for their TBI clinic, some PTSD work. That's a ready pool of potential applicants and heroes who we can be working with. So that's really what the ambassadors are doing. When they're doing the work in their community, they're finding people.
And so whenever you find the person, right, you find that guy, that girl that you guys are going to take in, what does that process look like? So they come in, you take them to a bow shop, and then you start the process there?
Yeah. So, starts with a conversation. We find out, okay, archery is going to be right for you. And then right now it's a one-on-one mentorship process. So whether it's going to a bow shop and working through them, or myself and a couple of our ambassadors have a bow shop in our garage. Now, we don't do any retail stuff, but we have on hand everything we need. So for me, I'm about to work with 3 heroes. They're up in Charlottesville, Virginia, doing a hyperbaric chamber treatment. When they're done with that, they're coming to me. I'll have 3 bows already set up for them, and we'll start the work right at my house.
What's the expectation on their end?
I think it varies. Um, and I think it matters how we message that too. I had a hero one time. I was having lunch with him just before we got started, and one of his questions was, "Has anyone who's come through your program gotten back to the person they were before the trauma?" And the answer to that question is no. You trauma changes you forever. It physically changes your brain, but yeah, there's no going back. What we offer through Index is post traumatic growth. We're going to help you use archery as a tool to get on a path to healing, and then through the community, through our support, through our mentorship, uh, we're there to help you become what you were meant to be and the best version of yourself, whatever that looks like. But we've had people, some of their expectations was, hey, this archery thing just seems cool. It just seems fun. And then you surprise them with actually how therapeutic it is and how calming and peaceful they feel afterwards. Yeah.
So what do you expect from them after you start this process with them? Like, is there like, hey, we need to meet every week, every month. We need to continue to check in with each other. Like, what's
Right.
the long-term goal with them?
Yeah, so it's going to be different for every person. The long term goal for us is to get them fully integrated into their local archery community, whatever that looks like for them, right? It could be an indoor league, it could be a 3D league, maybe it's bow hunting. We want them integrated. My main expectation is, hey, don't stop. I'm going to give you this bow, I'm going to teach you how to shoot. And typically for the first couple of weeks, I check in quite regularly. And then from there, it depends on the hero. If they need me to continue checking in and doing one-on-one sessions, we're there for it. Some of them jump right in with, hey, I met these guys at indoor league, and now I'm going to start shooting with them every night. But that's my biggest thing is I'm giving you the bow. Don't put it down.
Right.
Let this become part of your life. And so far, we've been successful there.
And how long have you guys been around for now?
So we started mentoring in 2019.
Okay.
The nonprofit
Got
was
it.
official in 2023.
Okay, cool. And do you have a rough idea on how many individuals who have been through this program or?
Yeah, we're over 70. I don't have.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I always have to sit down and go through
Yeah.
and look at the exact count, but I think we're sitting somewhere around 72.
Yeah.
Our goal for this year's 20. We've worked with 4, and we just got a partnership with Matthews. We've got 17 mission switches on the way to us. So we're going to crush that goal of 20
Right.
and keep pressing forward.
So as far as partnering, you guys partner with shops, with manufacturers, with just about anybody who's going to support the
Yeah.
mission.
Yeah, and it's our goal is, again, it's to let those, whether it's industry partners, bow shops, or whatever, we want them to show their support for veterans and heroes through us. Maybe shops have something else going on, and we're not the right partner for them right now. But if they're passionate about our mission and they want to show that, we're all about it, and we highlight that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's important. What about as far as your vision for like the coming years? I know you talked about creating the facility
Yeah.
there in Virginia. Like, do you have a long-term mission or goal that you guys have outlined that you're working towards?
Yeah, so that is the goal. Within the next 4 years, I hope to have 100 acres. It's going to have multiple archery ranges on it. It's going to have cabins. We're going to call these deployments, right? So the way it works is 5 or 6 heroes are going to be paired with 5 or 6 mentors for that week. So I'm going to have 12 cabins built out. We're going to have an indoor space with a mock bow shop. All of the products that are donated to our nonprofit or that we secure through our partnerships are going to be in there. So hero and a mentor, that again, morning one, they go into the bow shop and they build that hero's bow together. We're going to have an indoor range. But we just brought on to our board an amazing psychologist. She has been the FBI's trauma and sleep expert for the last 6 years. So she is consulting with us now and helping us build this therapeutic program. That's the goal, is to be able to bring people from all over the country to the Endex Archery Proving Grounds. They get their initial experience. And then when we send them home back to the ambassador that sent them there, they begin that community work. And I'll do that till I'm dead. People say, hey, when do you think you'll retire? Well, if I can get the proving grounds running, and not if, but when I get the proving grounds running, that is retirement for me, because I'll never want to quit that.
Yeah, I agree. I think purpose is the most important thing. When you find a purpose, I mean, it's not like It's
Right.
not a job. You enjoy it. I mean, it's as soon as you quit, I mean, you quit working. I look at my parents. I'm like, my dad, is he ever going to retire? No, he'll work until he
Yeah.
can't. Because if you don't, I mean, what else do you got?
Right. Yeah. And I'm building something again, like you said, that passion, right? I've got such a fire for this. And our initial goal was if this saves one person's life, it's all worth it. I hope I never find out though that we've saved a life because I'm always driving towards that. If I do find out, then it's like, all right, well then now we're going to save the next person's life. But that's really, for me, that's the gravity and the implication of what we're doing here. Is it's cool to say, hey, we're changing lives. Um, but I've literally worked with people who have told me, hey, I was about to close that door. I was in that dark room, and I was about to close the door. And then now I've got this community of friends. I've got this archery thing. I'm a better father. I'm a better husband. I'm a better friend, all because of this. And again, I put that back on the archery community. The people listening to this, you guys make that possible. It's because this community is so awesome and supportive and uplifting and fun that people say, you know what, I'll live for that. It's it's incredible.
So for you guys now, where is it that you guys need support? Is it funding? Is it gear? Is it volunteers? What is needed for you guys to continue to grow, or where are you guys limited at currently?
Yeah, funding's a huge one, right? And my goal is to attract some corporate sponsorships because the proving grounds, as I just described, right? It's an ambitious goal. It's an ambitious ask. That's got to come from somewhere. We have been fortunate with the gear stuff, but we started this with used bows, and that'll never go away. If people have archer equipment that's fairly modern and in good shape, and they want that to be put in the hands of a hero, absolutely, you can donate those. Because even with this partnership with Matthews, that doesn't mean I'm getting 17 free bows. It just means that they work with me on pricing, and I'm able to afford a lot more than I would as if I was just a guy on the street. Um, but it still costs money. But the donations that people send in, that's free for us. It's a tax write off for them. It's free for us, and it drives our mission forward. So we need support there. We also need support on the back end. We got a lot of people who um, they want to be ambassadors, and it's hard for us to bring on ambassadors because again, that's more monetary support that I now have to send to that person's um, community in order for them to actually do anything. So we grow our ambassadors um, pretty carefully. But what do we do with this hero once they are through our program? They're in the community. I need people who are willing to say, "Hey, I can take that guy to a 3D shoot and introduce him to that whole world," or "Hey, I've got land. I can take that guy hunting." Um, those people, really make what we do a continuing process. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the archery community is good for that too. I mean, we get guys. So we had a 3D shoot this weekend. Of course, it rained,
Right.
which we talked about. It's rained every event we've been to this year. I feel like, but we had a lot of new guys out, and it's cool to watch them come in. You go into a big group of people, and you're kind of standoffish. You don't know anybody,
Mm-hmm.
but how quick the community is willing to like, hey, no, come with us, dude.
Yeah.
Come on, come shoot with us. And just how welcoming the community is. I think it's a very easy community to kind of get into and be a part of, just because everybody is so open to bringing new people in, because it's important. If the community is not growing, it's bad for everybody within the industry.
Right.
So yeah, the archery community as a whole, man, is absolutely incredible. But as far as now, how can people listening, watching,
Mm-hmm.
get involved with you guys, like, or refer someone to you guys? What's the best way to reach out and make
Yes.
contact?
Very active on Instagram. So Endex Archery on Instagram. You can shoot us a DM. Our website, indexarchery.org. There's a contact us button there, and it'll draft an email. I'd say those are the two easiest ways. You can also just shoot me a text. My cell phone number's on the website, and that that may be dangerous, but I think we're still so small right now. But I also want it that way, right? Like when you call Index, you're not getting, a robot. You're not getting some person who some teenager that I hired just to man the phones. You're getting me,
Hello.
and I want to talk about it.
Yep.
Yep.
That's cool, man. That's important to us, man. The customer service side of things for what we do is what's always been important. And I think that's when people see that and they actually get to interact with people behind the scenes.
Right.
It builds that connection and then that trust. And that trust is what's so important with growth and moving forward with anything you do. I mean, a business, nonprofit, people got to believe in what you're doing. And that's very cool that they can text you and harass you.
Yeah, and if people have the desire to support us, we usually have an Instagram fundraiser going or a Facebook fundraiser there. People can donate anytime through our website as well.
Very cool. So always available. As far as this, so what has this thing taught you? I mean, is there anything that you've really taken away from it? You're like, wow, I've learned this about myself from being involved in this or starting this thing.
Um, yes, it's to me, it's been the power of doing what we're doing right now. You know, when I initially came back from Afghanistan, I was still that guy who believed, like many, like you don't talk about this stuff, right? It's not, men just bury this stuff down. Um, Seeking help and telling my story has been one really powerful for me, but it's also been um, just the feedback that I've gotten. Hey, man, I heard you tell your story, and I was able to open up about mine. Um, we do have the ability to break those stigmas that people have held for so long about mental health and PTSD. So learning that one, I could do it. You know what I mean? And two, learning that my story matters um, has been, I don't know, it's been humbling, I guess, because I'm nobody special, right? I'm just a dude. Um, but the fact that we can, just a dude like me can get out there and help people is pretty incredible. And that's the message I have for anybody listening. If you've got an idea in your mind, if you've got a passion on your heart to do something, um, just make it exist, and you can make it good later. Right? 2019, when we started this, we had a Facebook page that said Index Archery, and it existed. And to look back at where we are now is incredible. Um, and you may think, hey, I'm just a dude. I'm just a girl. I can't help people. I don't know anything about therapy or mental health. You can just get it started.
That's it. I think it's about the journey, right? You got to
Right.
start somewhere. We see that with everything. You just got to put it down, throw it on paper, throw it against the wall, and then start working towards it. Because everybody, I think, really gets into this paralysis by analysis. They overthink things, and
Right.
then they just kind of freeze up and they don't do anything with it. I'll notice it with me with business, man. I'm like, man, this has got to look a certain way, or we got to have this. And then you sit back, it's like, man, we might just go ahead, move forward. Eventually things will work out like they're supposed to. There's going to be a lot of hard lessons and lessons
Yeah.
learned, but they're lessons. I mean, and that's honestly the best way to learn.
Yeah. Sometimes it's one step forward, two steps back,
Oh,
but
yes.
it's that next step that matters.
That's
And you
it.
take another step forward. And yeah.
That's it. All right, dude. So I'm going to fire some questions at you. So your first bow you ever shot?
Yeah. PSC Stinger.
PSC.
Well, first compound bow.
Okay.
Through scouting and all that stuff, sure, recurves or whatever. Bear Grizzly is the first bow that I can name as far as a recurve.
Grizzly.
Yeah,
Oh
Bear
boy.
Grizzly.
Yes, sir. We've seen a few of those.
Yeah.
So, all right, favorite place that you've shot? We're talking archery events. Is there one that you've been to that you just really, really enjoy?
Mm,
It can be 3D local level. It can be total
yeah,
archery.
I would say the Q Wiffle Creek or Moore County Archers Association in Moore County, North Carolina.
Yep.
Yeah, just the memories and the friends that I made there is top.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
do a fantastic job out there. All right, so as far as you have anything that sticks out as far as the most meaningful thing or event or individual that you've worked with Index so far that's really just had an impact on you?
Yeah. There's a guy that I've worked with. He was a sheriff's deputy for 10 years, doing crimes against children. He's now a firefighter. Um, and he was the guy that asked me if he could go back to being the person that he was before the trauma. This guy will send me a message, I don't know, once every 2-3 months, and it'll be, a picture of his target with his group or whatever, and just his sentiment, and it could be something as short as, hey, I don't say thank you enough for what you've given me. But that guy, he'll send me some texts that just absolutely rock me because I see it's helping him. I see he gets it. And I love the transformation that I've seen in his life through archery.
Very cool, man. Last thing, if you could, a dream collaboration for your brand, for Index, is there any like partnership that you just really would be like, wow, this is incredible?
Yeah, well, getting to partner up with Matthews was that. I thought, and I'd emailed Matthews before in the start, but I just thought, hey, we're too small a fish. Um, they do a lot of good stuff, but they're just, who are we, who am I type of thing. So partnering them would be huge. Um, there's another one. I talked with Chris B and Caitlin Moss while we were at TAC, and we'll see if this comes to fruition. But I would love to send them some bow packages and let them find some heroes in their community, and film that and put that out there. Just because I think they're really good storytellers. I think the content that both of those individuals put out, um, resonates with a lot of people. It gets a lot of eyes. Um, but John Dudley, he's another great one, right? I'd love to have him come to the Proving Grounds once it's built and be a guest instructor for a week or even a day.
Yeah, that
Stuff
would
like
be
that
cool,
would be
man.
cool. The people that I look up to in this industry, and John's one of them. Like I said, I've got a bow shop in my garage, and it's because I watched the School of Knock years ago and started learning all this stuff, and it was free. It was free. That's pretty incredible.
It is. All right, man. So we're going to wrap this thing up one more time. Where can people donate, sign up, and reach out to you?
Yeah, so indexarchery.org. That's ENDEX archery.org. Index Archery, Facebook, Instagram, across the socials. You can donate online. Our address is on the website. If there's archery gear equipment that you want to send to us, you can mail it out and just shoot us an email so we can get you your tax receipt.
Too easy, man. Well, Jay, I appreciate you coming on, making the drive down to Emerald Isle, and then come hanging out with me this morning.
Absolutely.
If you guys are listening, you guys want to reach out, you want to help them, check out Jay. You can shoot him a text message to his phone, harass him, check him out on social media, head over to the website, indexarchery.org. Yeah, if you can help them out. They've got some really great guys. Ryan's a good dude, man. I enjoy talking with him. You guys obviously are doing some incredible stuff, some great work. And yeah, I just want to say thanks for taking the time to stop by and educating us on it. And then, the guys and girls who are listening, man.
Absolutely. No, it's an honor to be here. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. That's it, guys. Another episode of the Archery Project. Head over, check Jay out, indexarchery.org, and we will see you guys in the next episode.